Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Welcome to Adeptus On-Air. I want to welcome to the show today, Amanda Valletta. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Mike. It's so nice to be here.
It is so nice to have you. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
So when we started this podcast, and we have a few hosts that rotate in, I kind of thought about what I wanted to kind of do. And one of the things I was looking at is I wanted to get people who do kind of different things. So every time I'm talking to someone, I really don't want to talk to the same industry. I want to talk about people that have interesting stories and people want to hear about their experiences. And I think what you do is quite fascinating. So we met a couple months ago. We were flying on a plane, sitting near each other, flying back from London, and you had just finished 6 months doing what?
I was dancing on a cruise ship, and I was just returning home from my contract from doing that.
Yeah, so I found that fascinating, and probably to the extent of just making your flight miserable. I kept asking you questions about it because, we cruise a lot, and there's so many times on a cruise ship where they have the thing where you ask the captain questions, and most of the questions stem around what it's like living on a cruise ship and what it's like for the cast and crew and how they spend their time and what they do and where they live and what they eat and what they get to do on the ship. So I just kind of thought it'd be really kind of interesting to kind of get that perspective from someone who's lived the life. So before we get to that, kind of tell me how your career evolved from like school into dancing and then how you ultimately ended up doing what you did.
Absolutely. So I grew up in like a very, very small town in South Jersey. And there weren't like very many houses with children around. And so when I was 2 years old, my mom just put me into dance classes basically to make friends because there were no like neighborhood kids around, right? And so every single year she just said, we want you to have some kind of hobby, A, because it keeps kids out of trouble, and B, because it was like my social aspect before I joined like real school, And so I started dancing at 2 years old, and every year my mom said, you could pick a new hobby or you can continue to go to dance class. And I said, well, why would I switch? All my friends are in dance class now. Sure. And so I just kind of stuck with it because, all the girls you meet, you get along, and it's really fun. So every year I would just re-sign up to do, your typical ballet, tap, and jazz classes that like a lot of little girls end up doing when they first start dancing. Yeah. But interestingly enough, knowing me now, I'm not this way now, but when I was a kid, I was so serious. Like I was a very serious kid. I just like wanted everything to be perfect. Mm-hmm. So I ended up loving ballet. That was like my main thing. And so there was on Saturdays this ballet company that would put on the Nutcracker every year, and then also like Cinderella and Coppelia and different ballets like that. And so I quickly transitioned from doing this like traditional tap, jazz, and ballet kind of dance education to strictly almost all ballet. That's like really all I did. I loved it so much. I took so many ballet classes. I went to some summer intensives and things like that where you sleep over for 5 weeks in like college dorms, and you get to do ballet all day during the summer, and that was super fun. And it was like an obsession to the point where I begged my parents to go to performing arts school. And so starting in 7th grade, I went to this performing arts school. And so in the mornings from like 8 to 9:30, we would do our like major. So my major was ballet, but there was violin and vocal and drama and things like that as well. Yeah. And so I got to do that. And the school stopped at 8th grade. So then we were like scrambling, trying to figure out what to do next. And there was this high school for performing arts in Philadelphia called Kappa, Creative and Performing Arts. And so I auditioned for that. And I had this like really serious ballet solo that like I auditioned with. It was like far too serious for any child to be doing. I was like ready with my hair so tight, like so ready for this. And, they check up on your grades and they see your behavior and things like that as well. And I got into that school. But there, it's not a ballet school. Like Tuesdays we had ballet, but Wednesdays we had like Horton Modern class, and Fridays we had tap, things like that. So it was like really eye-opening. I got to do so much stuff. And I really started falling in love with different kinds of dance through going to high school there. And then after school, I was a part of this like postmodern jazz dance company for like teenagers. It was like the second company, this like youth ensemble to a big company in Philly. And so I loved doing that. And I basically just did like concert dance stuff with them.
Yep.
And so like I grew up, they say, like as a concert dancer doing ballet and this modern and not so much like jazzy commercial dance. But then I graduated high school and I went to college. I had a major, I changed my major, you know how it goes. But after my freshman year of college, I just needed a summer job. I had never had a job before. So I was just basically looking for anything that I would be good at as a 19-year-old that just needs a little bit of money. And so I auditioned for Hershey Park Entertainment. And I actually got my very first job as a dancer at Hershey Park, working in one of the summer shows out there. And I never really intended on being a dancer. I went to school for kinesiology at first, and then I switched it to education. But this Hershey Park like summer job, I fell in love with it. We did 5 shows a day, 6 days a week. I loved it. And so I was like looking for other like summer work while I was in college. I worked as like a dancer in a casino up in Canada, doing like this ABBA music review show, lots of Mamma Mia songs.
There you go.
And so that was really fun too. And then I auditioned for Busch Gardens Williamsburg to be a dancer, and they hired me to be in their Halloween and Christmas shows. Now this is like dramatic because I'm still in college, right?
Right.
And so I go home and I'm like to my parents, I say, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I possibly do? I want to get my degree, of course. I'm working so hard in college, but this opportunity has like presented itself. And my dad was like, you have no responsibilities, just go. Like, just it's 1 semester, do your thing, come back to school. It'll be like you never left.
Right.
And with switching my major, I didn't really have this like cohort of friends that I was like married to, you know, because I switched my major.
New friends, new classes.
Exactly. So I went off and I went to Temple University, and it's such a big school that they do this thing where you can take a leave of absence and they don't really ask any questions. You just fill out the paperwork and you can come and go as long as you come back by 2 semesters off. And so I only needed 1. I went, came back, continued on college like I never left. Well, then I was getting like really feisty, and I was like, I bet I could do something else. And so I like cut class. Don't tell my mom. And I went.
No, listen, you're fine.
And I went to New York City to audition for this big production company that was hiring dancers for 2 cruise ships. Now they have like 14 ships in the fleet, but they were specifically looking for dancers for 2 ships. And okay, well, I'll just like give it a try, see how it goes. Thinking it was like well above my like 21-year-old self to be able to do this. So I go, I audition. There's 300 girls there, like the most overwhelming thing in the world. And the casting director is explaining to us that there's 14 ships in the fleet, but they're looking for 2. There's 5 girls and 5 boys, like 5 female dancers and 5 male dancers, and then like 3 singers as well. And so I was like, okay, 300 girls and 10 spots. Those aren't good odds.
No problem.
Then he tells us, yeah, we're looking to fill 3 of those spots. I said, okay, this is like no chance ever, like on God's green earth that I'm getting this job. So I just audition. We do like, there's cuts, right? So we do this like little ballet combination to see if there's like technique, right? And then they let go like half the girls go home. Then we have to do like a jazz combination. So you put on your high heels and you do like a little sassy number. Okay, now more girls go home. And then they have us partner with the boys like to do some Latin ballroom, because there's a Latin ballroom show on the ship. And then by the end of this, there's 7 of us in the room. And he sits us down and he's like, will you all pass a drug test? Be honest. Are you going to pass? I'm 21. I'm like, of course I'll pass. Like, I've
Yeah,
never
why
done
not?
anything. And so he's like, okay, like we'll be in touch. Go about your lives. And like with auditioning, it's like 100 no's before you get a yes, right?
Sure.
So like
Hmm.
I immediately get on the megabus back home and like it's already out of my brain
Yeah, yeah.
because there's
There's
no
no way.
way. And like that's also just a healthy mindset to have with like auditioning. You don't want to be like so fixated on will I get this job? So it's out of my brain. I probably get a slice of pizza and go on my way. Well, now I'm in college the very next day, like in my integrating the arts into education class, and I get a phone call from New York. And I'm like, this is so bizarre. So I like pretend like I'm going to the bathroom and I pick up the phone and he's like, hi, we saw you at the audition yesterday. We loved you. Can you get on it like in rehearsals in 3 weeks? I said, sir, can I have time to think about this?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. Take all the time you need. Let us know in 72 hours.
That's not all the time you need, but okay.
Is that is so not all the time you need. But whatever. So I go home and now I'm in tears because like we get this email sent to us, like you'll be going here, there, and everywhere. We start in the Caribbean, and then the ship would head over to the Baltic Sea, and then it would head over to New England and Canada in like the fall time. So like this is just a dream come true. The only time I ever left the country was like to go to Italy when I was a kid. Like I had no travel experience really. So I'm like in tears at dinner and I'm like, I just don't know what to do. It's 9 months from home, like 9 months away. And my dad was like, again, he was like, the semester's almost over. Take your finals and just go. It's really
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. And so I did my finals. I finished up, and then I went to New York City for rehearsals from there. And this was 2017, and that was my first ship with this company. And I did 4 altogether. I just got off my 4th when we met. So it's been a crazy ride. I'm just like very grateful that my parents were
Yeah.
so like supportive of this because
Yeah.
I don't know what dad is paying for your college and says, yeah, sure, just leave.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So let's see. So how many countries have you been to since this started?
So getting off the contract that I just got off of marked 50 countries, which is like a big milestone. I was so happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you commit to going away for 9 months. You're
Yeah,
meeting people for the first time. You know nobody,
no one.
and you're how old this time? You're 22
I was,
ish.
well, you know what? It was 2 days into rehearsal was my 22nd birthday. So I was like getting scared that I was going to be celebrating my birthday with like strangers, like I didn't know anyone. And I didn't even know anyone living in New York at the time. Like, luckily, I'm from Philly. So, like, that's only 2 hours away. But
Yeah.
still, like, it was kind of scary. So, I packed my bags. My mom bought me like really cute pink suitcases and I packed them all up and I went to New York for 5 weeks for rehearsals. We learned like 5 shows in 5 weeks.
Sure.
And my cast took me out for my birthday, so like I wasn't alone.
That's nice.
But yeah, we did our rehearsals in New York City and then we flew to Fort Lauderdale and joined the ship there. And then after about a month in the Caribbean, which sounds like paradise, but after a month in the Caribbean, you're so ready to go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we shipped on out to the Baltic Sea, where I got to see so many cool places. And like Scandinavia is still one of my favorite places I've ever been. So I'm very grateful for that.
So, like I said, I've been on several cruises, and I think some of the ships I've been on might be bigger than some of the ones that you were on from what we talked about. But by the 6th or 7th day, you're having a great time. You're loving it. You're relaxed. You're eating great food. You kind of feel like a little claustrophobic, like I've been in the same thing. I'm seeing the same hallways, and so. But that's for 7 days. Now you're doing this for 9 months. That's got
Yeah.
to be the biggest adjustment. Is I have a couple hours maybe when I get off the boat, but I'm confined to this whatever 4,000 square whatever it is, area. Was that an adjustment for you?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So some people, I guess, if you cruise a lot, you might know this, but I had no idea. So we get on the ship the very first day. We're like lugging all of our suitcases up the gangway, and there's a security officer like scanning your bags, making sure you don't have any like contraband items.
Sure.
And then they say, okay, here's your room key. Go find your cabin. Huh? Like, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so the crew, they live like below decks. So if your like first deck is like labeled 1 on a cruise ship, we lived on A.
Right.
Like
So you were below 1.
underneath 1. Yeah, exactly. And then there's also B, C, and D. The dancers get to stay on A. I once got quarantined because I got the flu, and I got isolated down to B, and that was like a horrifying experience.
The dancers and the entertainers are one of the higher viewed employees, so you get a little more, some more perks maybe than, let's say, housekeeping or restaurant workers. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely. So like A is where maybe some of the like intern officers and like the third officers, like bottom of the barrel, like navigation, and also like entertainment, maybe some of the spa girls. We would all stay on A together there. There's different levels. It's like kind of a hierarchy on the ship, which is like a conversation all in itself. Like
Sure.
sometimes it's a little unfair, and I don't agree with all of it, but for the sake of our conversation,
You got on A, so you were on A, so you were happy.
exactly. I was on A, and it was fabulous. And now the dancers share with one other dancer. So I had a roommate, and we just kind of saw who got along in rehearsals, who like liked each other, who had similar interests and things like that. And so my roommate was another girl from Pennsylvania. She was from Pittsburgh, so we fought a lot about sports. It was really like it was good banter because you know our sports teams are rivals. It was great. And I was really grateful to have her like as my first experience with a roommate because she had been on a ship before, and so she was kind of like my tour guide and also like somewhat of a mentor, like do this but don't do this, this will get you in trouble, stay out of trouble, that kind of stuff. So I just followed her lead with that,
Right. So
and it kept me out of trouble.
since you just brought it up, what as an employee on a cruise ship gets you in trouble?
Oh my gosh, okay, that's like a complicated question. So there's certain people, of course, the captain is like the master of the vessel, right? He's the top guy, our president. And then right below him, there's a hotel director and a staff captain. And those are like our bosses, so to speak. And then right under them are the cruise directors. And then the dancers are below that. So the hotel directors get these contracts and they're 4 months. And so during my time there, I've had 3 cruise directors, right? So every hotel director and every cruise director want different things. And so with some hotel directors, spaghetti straps are fine. With others, it's not fine. And so you just kind of have to like tiptoe the line, be like ultra conservative at first.
Right.
And then you get to like kind of explore your freedom. So a lot of the times spaghetti straps were a no-no. I was on quite a conservative cruise line. I was with Holland America Line. And the population of the clientele is a little bit older than maybe like Royal Caribbean.
Yep. My grandfather, when he retired, his retirement was teaching bridge on cruise ships.
That is so cool.
And his choice was either to get paid or to take my grandmother. That was the choice back then. So he would obviously take my grandmother. And sometimes they would be gone for weeks on end because they would do a cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. They lived in Florida. And then they'd get back and they'd have to get off the boat for an hour to clear customs and then go back on in the same room. And they would do sometimes 3 or 4 cruises in a row. He would teach bridge an hour or 2 a day, and they'd have the rest of the cruise to do what they wanted. They were different because they weren't really deemed to be full-time crew. So they were given normal rooms. They weren't put down underneath, and they were able to eat in the main dining room. So it was a little different for them. But at the same point in time, that's how they lived a lot of their life, on cruise ships. Yeah. And his big goal was to get on a world cruise, like a 3-month. and they finally got that opportunity. Ironically, at the same time, it was my sister's bat mitzvah. So they actually missed the bat mitzvah because they're waiting for this for so many years. And they finally got it, and it overlapped it. So yeah, but yeah,
Um,
it was a crazy experience for them. So I remember conversations with them like, "How are you on a boat for it was 90 something days?" So I can't imagine you doing it. And I imagine down below, your living conditions are probably very basic. I imagine your room's probably
yeah.
small, as most cruise ship rooms are.
Yeah. So there's like bunk beds for the dancers, and then some of like the lead singers and things like that get more of like a full size bed situation. Um, so yeah, so we had bunk beds, which saved a lot of space with like the sleeping arrangement because then we were able to have like some floor space. We have a desk with a TV and some storage, a wardrobe, and then that's really it. And then you open the door to like your triangular shaped bathroom where the like your
Yes.
shower curtains attacking you, you know.
No, yeah, yeah, those showers are like literally yes, yes. There's no room for it. Yep, no room. Yeah, you're in and out of there
No
so
way.
fast. You feel claustrophobic in that thing alone. Now,
Absolutely.
in your situation, where you were given special food as well, so like you ate down with the crew, you weren't welcome to eat up with the passengers, I assume, correct?
So with this like staff crew like hierarchy level that the singers and dancers are given, we have a couple of choices. There is a crew mess down below decks where the crew eats, and there's also a staff mess. So a crew mess, think like housekeepers, like beverage attendants, waiters, things like that, like those kinds of jobs. That's the crew mess, and it's just like a lot of people, a lot of food. The staff mess is where like the officers get to go to eat, the engineers, the spa staff, and then like also the singers and dancers can eat in there as well. And then because we're like forward facing crew members and the guests like to see us because like you're like a mini celebrity in this
Sure.
bubble. Like by no means am I a celebrity, but
But
like
on that
for
boat at that time, you are. Yeah,
exactly for those 7 days that the guests are on, we're like the entertainment. And
yeah,
so it's kind of like a little bit of advertisement if we were to go out and about around the ship and the crew, like the staff captain and the hotel director like that. So we would go up and eat in the buffet with the guests as
sure.
well. And so we do get those privileges. It was like the timing of it was a little bit restricted. Like you'd go the last 30 minutes of the meal time. So if the buffet's open for 2 hours, we would
Right.
have the 30 minutes at the end. There's certain places we could sit, like
Mhm.
we would never take a window seat from the guests, right? We'd sit on like the inside
Sure,
tables.
sure.
So it's just like common courtesy to the people that are paying to be there. And then
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're getting paid. So we
Interesting.
were also allowed to like book in the normal dining room that doesn't really cost any money for the guests.
Mhm.
We're also allowed to eat there with a reservation, and we were also allowed to eat in like those specialty dining,
Yeah.
that like the steakhouse that you have to pay a little extra for. We were able to pay for that as well and go there. So like if it was a birthday or something
Right.
special, we would get to eat there too.
That's interesting. It's yeah, yeah. I remember seeing we were on a ship a few years ago, and the show was Hairspray. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes.
Hairspray, but the lead character in a lot of cases wears like a fat suit because the character's heavy. And I'm in an elevator and I hear the voice. We just saw the show the night before, and the voice to me just sounded a lot like the person who played Tracy the night before. And then she makes a comment. I guess her mom was on board. Makes a comment about Tracy. So when she gets off the elevator, I say to my kids who are much younger at the time, I said, I think that was to play Tracy last night. And my daughter, not fully understanding at the time about the suit, she goes, no, 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 that wasn't her. I said, no, I'm pretty sure it was her. So she then runs out of the elevator and chases her and asks her if it was her. And she says yes. And then she'd have a conversation. So every time she saw her, a few more times on the cruise ship, she would go up to her, give her little hug and stuff like that. So it was talk about the celebrity thing. My daughter thought that was like so cool that the lead in the show kind of by the end of the cruise ship knew her and they were friends. So yeah,
Yeah.
so you're right though. That's I guess it's part of that experience, you know, and so forth. So what is the biggest struggle or frustration with that lifestyle? And
Okay,
don't
there's
tell
two
me being
things.
away from family because we know that one. But on board, what's
Yeah, honestly, it's great when you get along with your coworkers, but we eat together, we share rooms together, we work together, and we also do all of our leisurely activities together.
right?
And so, like, you would never call a performer shy necessarily, right? So it's these like 13 big personalities doing every single thing every single day together for 9 months. And sometimes it like is a little overwhelming with like,
Right.
you know, different personalities having to like all mesh together
Sure.
in that way. Um, and also the Wi-Fi. The
Oh,
Wi-Fi stinks.
oh, I know the Wi-Fi does think you're right. Yes, that is absolutely true. I know that, and I imagine being lower in the boat, it probably is worse down there.
Oh my gosh. We actually, I don't know if this is a secret, but whatever. There's a separate server for the crew
Okay,
than the guests. And our server is worse than the guest one.
I don't even know how that's possible.
I know.
And you're
It's
paying a
insane.
lot of money to have Wi-Fi on that cruise ship, and it is awful.
It's literally so slow. And like the captain even has slow internet. Like there's just nothing
Right.
like we just have to get up onto date with this technology and get it better because no one on the ship has good Wi-Fi. But that does make it hard. Like I have a boyfriend at home, and so when I go on the ship, like I try to FaceTime him every night, but like
Yeah.
it's every third word I'm hearing if I'm lucky. His
Right.
face looks like building blocks. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
not good.
It's all right. But so you're done now. You just finished your fourth cruise, correct? Your fourth
Yes,
contract.
correct.
So what
That's
now?
right.
Are you looking to do a fifth, or are you looking to do something else now?
You know what? I have very much just like relinquished all control. And I just kind of go with the flow. After my first ship, I was like, that was cool. Maybe I'll do it again. And then
Mhm.
another one just presented itself, right? And so right now, I'm just submitting and auditioning for a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not really actively pursuing one thing in particular, but just kind of like just setting all my feelers out and seeing um, what I can get. Now, it's the pay on cruise ships is pretty good for dancers, and the lifestyle is also pretty amazing.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of hard to match that after doing it for so long.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see. Whatever happens.
You're interviewing, I guess, whatever presents itself all over the country. I know you had mentioned to me you had an audition for, I think, a job in South Carolina.
Absolutely, yeah. So after like this post-COVID world that we live in, um, auditioning is looking very, very different than it used to, which is kind of cool. So, as I mentioned, my first audition for the cruise ship was 300 girls in New York City.
Right.
This time around, I put together a little like performance reel about 3 minutes long of just me dancing in all the shows that I've been in, some cool tricks. Look what I can do,
Oh,
trying
sure.
to sell myself.
Yeah.
And then you can email that off, like email off that YouTube link with your resume and your headshot. And then if they deem you like of the talent caliber that they need, then they'll email you back and say, that was great. Can you film yourself doing this dance combination? Can you Zoom with us? And so with that audition, I just emailed him with my YouTube link. And he said, oh, that's so fabulous. Like, let's meet up on a Zoom, be prepared to dance. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. My apartment's really small. What do you mean prepare to
Yeah.
dance? Like, do I need to go rent out like a gym or a dance studio?
Right.
And he said, oh, no, just a couple turns, a couple kicks, just making sure you still got it,
Fair
whatever.
enough.
And so we did our Zoom, we chatted a little. I kicked my legs, I did a couple turns, and he said, okay, thank you very much. We'll be in touch. So it's getting a little bit easier to audition just because like there's all of this technology now that we know is so good.
Yeah.
So it like helps my megabus ticket prices. I'm not buying them 3 times a week or whatever like I used to. So it's
Yeah.
really helpful.
But if you take a job, just say somewhere in another state, I imagine you're responsible for your own housing, and things like that, or
Yeah, so it really does just depend. Like I worked in a couple of theme parks and in a casino once, and we got put up. One time I got a condo, one time I was just in a hotel, and the other time it's like little tiny townhouses, kind of like dorm style living.
yeah.
And so sometimes they'll give you things like that, and it'll just get deducted right from your paycheck. Like when I worked at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, I think they deducted $7 per day from my paycheck to like
So
live
no,
in this, like, it's really no big deal. And like being from Pennsylvania and like choosing to work in Virginia, not having to sign a lease, not having to like have that headache, sometimes it really is worth it. So it's great.
wow. It's amazing because I know I mentioned to you before that lifestyle for some people would be terrifying. But like you seem to embrace it. Like, we'll just see what happens next. Some people would be, oh my God, my contract's over next month. I need my next plan. And I admire you for being like, okay, let's just see what happens. And that's so admirable, because I know a lot of people would be in like utter panic mode as that last contract. But it seems like you were able to
Oh,
just enjoy it till the right to the end before kind of moving on to the next thing.
absolutely. That's actually something that like is very important to me. And my roommate on my last ship, she was like a fresh graduate from college, and like this was my fourth ship. So like how
Mhm.
I said, I would always look towards my first roommate
Yeah,
as like guidance. I like felt the roles kind of switch,
sure,
which
sure.
was a really cool experience.
Mhm.
Um, and so we always talked about that all the time. Like some of our castmates were constantly submitting while still being on the ship.
Yeah,
You know, we're over in Italy and Greece, and these things back home in New York are asking, can you Zoom with us? And they're up until midnight, 1 a.m. doing these auditions. And like, it's just such a hectic like experience. And so she was like in our cabin one day, just like, am I supposed to be doing that? Am I supposed to be constantly submitting, constantly
right.
auditioning? And I said, everyone is different, but
Yeah,
like, this is my approach. And I explained to her how I just like take the break from auditioning for the 9 months that we're on a contract.
right.
Then I go home. We got sent home right before Thanksgiving. So I knew for like my values, I wanted to be home for Thanksgiving and Christmas with my family.
Mhm.
I've missed enough Christmases that in my like career that if I had the chance to be home for this one, I wanted to take it.
Mhm.
And so I said, I want to just hit the ground running starting in the new year and see what happens, but I don't want to like bog myself down thinking about it right now. I just want to enjoy my experience. And like between my first and second ship, I had to graduate college. So that was 8 months where I was like off
Right.
the market, could not
Yeah.
take any job. And I think that like being forced into a situation like that helped me see the value of going out and being on these contracts, but also the value in being home with your friends and your family, and like finding little odds and ends jobs, finding a dance studio to teach dance in or whatever until the next
Right.
thing comes along.
Well, I was going to say that's the one good thing. You have this great skill set. I'm sure your career at some point could evolve into the education side of it. Whether it's at your own studio or working, at a studio, choreography, technique, all that kind of good stuff. So you could tell
Absolutely.
I'm dance. I know that kind of stuff.
You do. It's impressive. Not
You were
everyone
talking
does.
about the jazz, the lyrical, the hip hop, the point, oh yeah, I got it all.
You
Yeah.
got it all.
I know I actually, this year is my daughter's senior year. So they do at the fourth grade recital, you do a father-daughter dance. And so we did that in fourth grade. And then this year at the recital, they redo that same dance now 8 years later. So
That is amazing.
I have to get back on the stage in June. Yeah. I thought I was done. But I got one more dance. So I got to do that in June.
That's amazing. Okay. So here's the deal. If this ever shows up on like the internet, the video aspect, I think that we should just like right here put the clip of you dancing.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, right here. Exactly. We can edit it in. We might do that with you. It's very possible we might find a clip of you, and as we're talking, show when you're talking about your highlight reels or whatever, put some clip of you dancing if we can track those down. But yeah, we want to encourage viewers. We don't want to turn them off. So I think showing me might not be the best plan.
Oh, I don't know. I'd tune in for that.
Well, yeah. Not to be entertained. I just think to laugh so you can poke some fun at me. So it's a whole different thing. But listen, I want to thank you for coming on. Like I said, it's always fascinated me. So I just wanted to give people just a perspective of, what most people have done, or a lot of people have done in cruising, and just to kind of hear it from the position of, one of the workers there. Because like I said, I've always wanted to kind of sneak down there and just see what the life was like for the crew, and so forth like that. So you kind of gave us a cool little glimpse that, most people don't even get. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, it's such an amazing lifestyle. Like, every single day, my home is parked somewhere new.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy that, like, I'm only 28 and I've seen 50 countries completely free. And I was
Yep.
getting paid to do it, you know? And people don't realize that, like, the crew gets a lot of time off to explore the places. Like, the shows happen at night. What do I do all day? I get to go out and explore all these different
Well, I think it's
countries.
different
And
for you who's doing 2 shows a night or something, probably not even every night, as opposed to someone who's, cleaning rooms every day from 10 to 4 and then probably going back at nighttime to pull down, kind of thing. And you just have 2 shows. So, you could sleep probably 12, 1 o'clock if you wanted, you know, or go out and explore.
absolutely. And like, not, well, we call it ship life, and like, it's so not for like every single personality type, but they really do try to make it such a good lifestyle for everyone on board. Like, I always tell this story to like the guests and stuff too, but we were in Egypt and everyone wanted to go see the pyramids, right? That was like something every guest, every crew member, like, that's a once in a lifetime
Of
opportunity.
course.
And the whole crew was like, it's 3.5 hours away. No shot am I like getting in a cab, A, paying for it, and then B, like getting in a cab with a stranger three
Yeah.
and a half hours out to the desert, right? And so like the little murmurs below deck were heard by, there's like crew welfare administrators,
Mhm.
and their whole job is just to make sure that we're happy.
Yeah.
And they like heard the murmurs, and then the very next day they rented 2 coaches that could fit 75 people each
Wow.
and a sign up sheet, and all you had to do was sign your name, and then you got to go see the pyramids.
That's
Like,
nice.
it's so great because it is such a hard lifestyle. You're away from your family. A lot of those housekeepers and waiters and stuff, they have children at home and wives and husbands.
Yeah.
And so it's good that they try so hard to make us happy. We have our own little bar, our own little like restaurant that we can eat at and just like completely unwind and be ourselves. And then not only that, but they do those kinds of activities as well
That's
for
nice.
us. So
That
it's
is
amazing.
awesome. Well, Amanda, I thank you so much for your time. How can people find you on social media? Any things you want to mention?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Amanda Valletta. There's lots of dancing stuff, lots of travel photos. So if you need some travel inspo, you can look there because I've seen a lot of good things.
Sounds like it. Yeah, I am jealous. So I really appreciate the time. I wish you nothing but continued success. And we're going to definitely follow your career and see where it takes you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.